Hey, what's going on, everyone? Let's see. Today's Tuesday, July 7th. It's 7 a.m. right now. I didn't wake up and go. I didn't go. Oh, excuse me. I didn't wake up and go to the gym or go running today because I was up late last night, or like late for me. Uh, uh, we were recording episode 6 of our podcast, the Code Show podcast. We didn't want to skip anything. So because I was out of town last weekend over 4th of July, we scheduled it to make sure that we wouldn't have like a weekend skipped. So we made sure to come during the week sometime. So we're trying to put it out. Eventually, we'll try to put it out every weekend. That would be ideal, or at least record every weekend. So that means we recorded one last night. We're going to record one again this coming Saturday. But because we both have full-time jobs, we had to go after dinner. So yeah, we ended up recording and then talking about Kojo stuff until like after midnight something, or I don't know. I got home around midnight, something like that. So that's late for me since I wake up at 4:30 in the morning most days. It's hard to stay up that late. Let's see. Yeah, starting a podcast. One thing that we did talk about. This thing right here, I guess, is relatively easy. I feel like I'm getting more comfortable. It's just my webcam. Because we bought a couple of different microphones with arms. Because we bought a couple of different microphones with arms for our podcast to try out different things. I just kept one, so now I'm using this. Before, first couple of, I don't know if you call it episodes, the first couple of videos I made were just using my headphone mic, and it's not as good. Maybe you can't tell. Maybe I don't know, but this thing sitting in front of the computer is getting easier. I'm not necessarily worried about lighting. I got this like sunlight laser coming through, and I roughly have a plan, but it's not like it's a big deal. But when we're doing the podcast, we have like a nice DSLR camera. DSLR cameras don't record more than 29 minutes, 59 seconds, so you have to kind of get some software to like block that. There's no reason for it as far as we can tell. It's just like a tax issue. They tax cameras differently than video camcorders. So anyway, yeah, like we had to set that up. We were using like 3 different computers. One to record the audio in GarageBand, one to record the video on OBS, and then one to record, and one to just have it plugged into this other software to stop the camera from automatically turning off. And that's just because that computer wasn't, maybe it's just not as powerful. I don't know. There was like some flicker or something. It doesn't matter. But yeah, like we've done 6 episodes now, and every episode has had like little issues. Either the audio isn't good or the video isn't that great. So we're learning. Yeah. Anyway, so it took a while to get set up. Basically, Saturday will be episode 7. Most podcasts don't get past episode 7, so that's like a hurdle for us. So we're gonna do it. I think actually that is so I do have like this little outline. Grit is so I'm listening to that book, Icarus Deception, talking about like don't be afraid of going too high, be afraid of staying too low. And there's a couple of different points I'm going to talk about today, but one of the things that we talked about last night in the podcast, but we didn't use this word. One of the things he talked about today briefly was just grit. And in order to be different, in order to be an artist or a linchpin, whatever he calls, you have to have grit. Grit causes that friction, right? Like it causes change. And that's what in the book he's always talking about, how artists cause change. Apple made better computers, and they're trying to like change their customers. They were trying to change the system to make things better. Maybe you could say that same thing. Kojo, we're trying to cause change. We're not just trying to make cookie cutter videos. Hopefully, we make learning iOS more simple. Right? Maybe it doesn't have to be as difficult or confusing. It certainly doesn't need to cost $100,000. So again, like there's some change there that we're trying to do. So in order to be an artist, you are causing change, or you're roughing up the situation, and that's kind of like the definition of grit in a system. There was another book called Grit, and by Angela Duckworth, and she just like the general term for grit is just not quitting, not giving up. So that's what he's kind of using, these two different terms, or maybe you want to consider them the same. But it's important to recognize that if you do want to do something different, if you want to change your life, let's say, like, then you have to have grit. You have to, you can't quit. In order to make that change, there's going to be some friction. Whether it is learning how to program. Like when I went to school, when I went to DigiPen, it was difficult. I mean, obviously it's a 4-year degree, so it's 4 years of life change. There was a lot of studying. There was a lot of staying up late at night. And there's a lot of people who quit. And so you just have to not quit. And I guess we were talking about that on the podcast last night too, but yeah, that's just, grit is part of the work. You're going to have to have grit, like you're going to have to not quit. You're going to have to grind. That's exactly what I had said with podcasts. Most podcasts end after like 7 or before 7 episodes, or after 7 episodes. They don't make it to 7 episodes. It took us a while to get stuff set up last night, even after the 7th episode, even though we have like a dedicated room for our podcasting with like the table and there's like a TV and all the microphones already set up. Still, every time there's been these little issues, and getting set up actually takes some time. So I can understand, and obviously like I went on like a little vacation over break, or over the weekend. There's like 100 reasons why it can be easy to quit. You just have to not quit. Like if you want that change, if you want to do something, if you want to be successful, or however you define success, if you are looking for a change, workout, health, whatever, you have to not quit. You just have to just do it. It might suck at first. There's certainly some days when it's not going to be convenient. But those are the days where you have to just get up and do it anyway. Oh, I guess now I sound bad, right? Because I just said I didn't go running today, or I didn't do my exercise today because it was inconvenient, because I stayed up late last night. And so I guess I didn't have grit on that. I am going to do it during lunch. So we have kettlebells at the house, so I'm going to be doing some kettlebell. But still, I probably could have ran, honestly. Like, what am I doing? Anyway, so yeah, grit is part of the work. The other thing that he was talking about, Icarus Deception is an interesting book, because he talks about a lot of, I think the way Seth Godin writes is he has all these like little blog posts, or like little ideas, maybe even like these little episodes that I do for YouTube, like these roughly connected ideas because it's all around the same topic, and then it feels like he just forms that into a book. I've heard people who read him don't necessarily like it, but the audio version is better. So it's like these are kind of like roughly connected, but it doesn't, I guess it feels like it has an overarching theme, but that theme is like really, really, really high. So there's not like a narrative, I guess, compared with some other books. That doesn't make it bad, but sometimes it makes it hard for me to think about. There's like a ton of key points, but sometimes it's hard to remember some of those key points because they don't always tie in together. One of the things that stuck out to me that I liked yesterday was he was talking about permission. And he was saying in the connection economy, which is just his term for what our economy is right now. The fact is we're all connected via the internet, via Twitter, Facebook, everything like that. So we're in this connection economy. It is a different world. I didn't see that. Well, I guess I watched it change. But if you read books like Seth Godin, if I would have been reading Seth Godin or Gary Vee in 2010, maybe I would have seen it better, but I wasn't. But he talks about permission. He was saying in the old days of pick your time, in the 70s, the 2000s even, maybe the 2000s, that was like towards the end. Like, you needed to find that book publisher. You needed to find that, like, you needed to find Oprah. Like, you needed, in order, like, you're asking permission to be on Oprah's show, or you're asking permission from a publisher to write that book or to be on TV or whatever. You have to get that permission from the TV executive to make that show. And he says, now that's just no longer the case. You don't need permission. You can just turn on a webcam and start talking. Or you can just, well, I guess we're doing that. You can just start a blog. You can just start a blog about money and how you are financially independent, and then become Mr. Money Mustache, who apparently makes millions off of his blog about saving money. That's what I heard anyway. I'm not positive. But yeah, the point is, he didn't need permission from anybody. And there's countless blogs out there. That's how Gary Vaynerchuk got started as well. He started a YouTube channel about wine, and then he was just talking and caring and connecting with people on social media. Like, he wasn't in his books, he's not even trying to sell them all the time. The thing he's trying to do is be really, really helpful. Which is, I always say there's two things. Like, if you want to become successful, I've been saying this, maybe I'm not good at it. Become really, really good. Focus on becoming really, really good. If you're focused on becoming good, if you're focused on being good, then people will find you, right? Assuming that you're actually good. So that's the hard part. So don't focus on like the other distractions. Focus on just what would it mean for somebody to be good. And then again, hopefully people will find you. That might not always be the case. So the number 2 thing is focus on being really, really helpful. Go out and help people, right? So we were talking about this on the podcast. Now I'm like rambling, but we were talking about this on the podcast last night. If you don't know how to get that first job as a programmer, go out and find an independent artist, like a musician or whatever. Go make their webpage. So, and then focus on making it a good webpage, right? Like, you might not have the skills yet, and that's fine, but like work on it and get better. And maybe don't even get paid for it. But the fact is, you have a client, or maybe get paid $5 for it, and you could say it's a paid job. I don't know. But you are being helpful. You're making connections. Yeah, and you don't need permission. And that's kind of wrapping that back up. Gary Vee didn't have permission. Maybe Seth Godin, I don't know his whole history. But yeah, you don't need permission. You can start that blog. You can start that YouTube channel, whatever. You can just start chatting on Twitter, whether you're learning to program and you're starting Twitter and asking people for help, or you are a knowledgeable programmer and you want to start tutorial videos and you're going around offering people help. So you don't need, there's no permission. So just do it. The fear of that, he brings this up as well, Seth Godin. He talks about sink or swim. And he says, there's a whole lot more swimming now, but there's not a whole lot of sinking going on. It's, for the majority of us, at least in America or like, I don't know, Australia, like I don't know what the limit is, but let's say like Western countries, although even like Korea is fine, South Korea is fine, Singapore, whatever. For the majority of us, it's pretty hard to fail, right? We're probably not going to be, we're not going to be eaten by lions. we're probably not going to starve to death. America does have, I guess, I don't know. There's help, all right? There's help, and so like the worst case that happens if you start a YouTube channel, you can start a YouTube channel while you have your day job. Like that's not a problem. You can even quit your job and start a YouTube channel, and you might. I mean, you're going to lose that job, but again, you're probably not going to die. You're probably not going to starve. You can go out and get a new job, and maybe that's not. I'm making it sound simple because that's not necessarily easy for everybody. But even right now during a pandemic, there are jobs everywhere. I still see job postings for Target and Sprouts and stuff like that. You have to decide in your own situation, but still, there's probably not a whole lot of syncing going on. Related to that is, and I guess related to permission, you don't need permission. It's pretty hard to sync, but it's pretty hard to stand out as well, right? So because nobody needs permission, you can do your thing. That doesn't mean anybody's going to care. It doesn't mean anybody's going to like it. And that's fine. So focus on getting really, really good. Do the thing. Have grit. It's part of the work. Don't ask for permission, so just do it. And then focus on being really, really good. Focus on being really, really helpful. And then, I don't know if it's a recipe for success, but to me, it can't hurt. I guess that's also part of like the sink or swim, and there's just not sinking going on. If me and Cole keep working on Kojo, and we end up making hundreds of tutorial videos, and we make 200 or 300 Kojo podcasts, and then I start doing the live streaming with the games that I'm not like building games, and we don't become like millionaires or whatever, it doesn't hurt. Like it's still like there's no negative part to it. I guess that's like the biggest point. There's no like the worst part is it took up a whole bunch of time. Along the way, I probably gained some skills. I will still have the YouTube channel. To me, that always seems like a good backup for your resume. I doubt that the YouTube channel is going to stay at, well, I mean, we already have like 200 subscribers on YouTube for Kojo. So I don't think it's going to stay flat because we're going to keep sharing that stuff on Twitter and Facebook. So, maybe we can get 1,000 subscribers or 10,000 subscribers. That looks impressive. Your boss, my boss, is going to think that it's important or like impressive if you have 10,000 or 20,000 subscribers. And again, like what would quit even mean? If I do this for 3 years and I have hundreds of videos, I can't not be better. So again, it's like it's a boost to my skills. Seems like it's a boost outlooking to anybody who sees that I have hundreds of tutorial videos. Chances are the connections are going to go up as I build more Twitter followers and stuff like that. So I just don't see a downside, and I don't see it. Whatever your situation is, I wouldn't see a downside for that either. The only thing it costs is time, but you gain so much more. Like you gain so much more, and that's a big part of the reason why we're doing it. And if you can make connections, you gain even more. But even without the connections, like just being able to talk, even I don't know if I wouldn't call myself good at talking in front of the camera right now, but after doing it a couple of days in a row, I think I'm better at it than I was 2 weeks ago when I first started. I'm certainly better at it than when I filmed that, when I recorded that So Good They Can't Ignore You. Maybe it's marginal. Maybe you disagree and it's marginal improvements. But I feel more confident. I feel more comfortable. So even if it's an internal thing right now, it worked. And that internal thing is actually maybe, well, I don't know if it's more important. It's more important for me right now because that helps me keep going. To me, that's also part of that grit. It gets easier to do that thing. It gets easier to click record. Like the more you do it. So yeah, I guess I'm rambling now. It's almost 8:00. I'm gonna record some more tutorials for Kojo, and yeah, get to coding. Yesterday was day 5 of 1,000 for 1,000 days of code. Today will be day 6. During the week, it's not cheating, but it's like I have my job, like my day job, so it's easy to code during the week. Yeah, so today will be day 6. It's no problem. Anyway, have fun. Go out there, crush it, get after it, all of those things.